Well, good morning, and welcome to the International Mastermind Association Think and Grow Rich show. My name is Galen Bingham. I am the leadership strategist, and I am just really excited every time I get an opportunity to hang out with you guys and talk about Think and Grow Rich. This is going to be another amazing show. We're going to be talking about specialized knowledge, personal experiences and observations, which is the fourth step to riches. And I'm just so excited to be going through this particular topic with you. It's not going to be just me. So, I could have this conversation with you and would enjoy to have this conversation with you. But I've got some amazing co-hosts. And before I bring them on, I just want to remind you to be sure that you like and share this podcast with anyone that you believe needs to be a part of this conversation. As a matter of fact, right now, I want you to think of just three people that you know need to be part of this conversation. There's got to be an uncle, a brother, a father, a spouse that you know, hey, they need to hear this. Tag them right now. Bring them into this conversation. It's not too late. We are sharing, as we do every Saturday morning, amazing information about how you can absolutely get from where you are to where you want to be. This is the formula to success. These are the rules of the game. So enough preaching for now. Let me bring in my co-host. The first person I want to bring in is Miss Ursula Odom. She is the CEO of Sula 2 Publishing. I just love the name of your company. Tell the audience a little bit more about you and where you got the amazing name for your company, so that we can get into the conversation.
And I so appreciate your appreciation for the name. It is dear to me. My grandmother's name was Ursula, but they called her Sula. And so when I evolved as an Ursula also and realized that, I said, okay, so I am Sula too. And it is a nod to my grandmother every time someone says my company's name. And what we do is we make old new in everything that we do. In that, we capture, preserve, and present legacy information in any form possible, from books to legacy walls to live performances, but it's all about the story. And today's subject is all about that, because my grandmother told me I had skills. I know that. But then I had to figure out how to focus those skills into a specialized knowledge. So let's get with it. Thank
All
you.
right. Well, Ursula, hey, so do you know a couple people that you can think of that need to be part of this, that need to hear this conversation? Can you think of a few?
Oh, a few. Yes. And I'm working on it right now.
All right. Well,
I mean,
fantastic. Well,
right
hey,
now.
well, while you're working on that list of people that we need to invite to this conversation, I want to bring in our other co-host for today, none other than the founder of the International Mastermind Association, and the only person that could cause me to get up so early, twice a week. And on Saturday to have this conversation, none other than the master wealth builder herself, Miss Ann McNeil. Ann, thank you and welcome to the conversation. How are you doing this morning?
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Galen, I like to say if I were any better, I'd be you. I'm awesome, and I'm excited to be here because today is going to be very special as we do a master class, but it's also going to be very special because we're going to reach out into the audience and ask our audience to give us questions that they'd like to have answered, resulting and involving this entitled section of specialized knowledge from the principle espoused by Napoleon Hill. So as we get this party started, after these 13 steps, we are going to have another phenomenal program. And again, my name is Ann McNeil, and I am the Master Wealth Builder, helping you to build a wealthier business and life with these principles.
Number one is desire. Napoleon Hill said that everything starts with a burning desire, a compelling reason for doing what it is we do. Step two is faith. having belief in our ability to attain that which we desire. Step 3 is what we call autosuggestion. Autosuggestion simply means being very intentional about the things that we are pouring into our thoughts, into our brains, and into our consciousness. Our brains, our minds will receive everything automatically, but we have to work extra hard to make sure that the positive things are what we are feeding ourselves, because those positive thoughts are going to turn into positive actions. Step number 4 is specialized knowledge. No one person knows everything, even about whatever their particular area of expertise might be. And the value of the MasterMind principle is using the specialized knowledge of other people. Step number 5 is imagination, the workshop of the mind. Everything starts with our imagination and our thoughts, the burning desire to transform those thoughts into our reality. In order to do that, we have to take a look at step 6, which is organized planning. That is how we crystallize our desire into action, organizing ourselves. Having the thought and not acting on the thought isn't going to get us anywhere. We have the thought, we go through the organized planning to transform that thought into action. Step number 7 is decision. What Napoleon Hill said is the mastery of procrastination. Napoleon Hill said that the antidote to procrastination is simply to make a decision and then move on that decision. Step 8 is persistence. We have to have a sustained effort which is induced by our faith in order to achieve our goals. One of Napoleon Hill's books I love, even the title, 3 Feet from Gold. Those people who became rich during the gold rush in the wild, wild west days didn't do that because they were necessarily smarter or had better information than anyone else. It's because they stayed just a little bit longer. Sometimes people left when they were just literally 3 feet from gold. So hanging in there, being persistent, is step number 8. Step number 9, the power of the mastermind, the driving force. None of us can accomplish anything on our own. Everybody, I don't care who you are, from the most prominent person to the person who might be considered the lowest on the totem pole, everybody has someone who helped them get to where they are. And the power of the mastermind is being able to use those influences around us. Use the thoughts, use the knowledge, use the exploration of other people to help us in achieving our goal. Step number 10, the mystery of sex transmutation. This title can be a little confusing, but essentially what the mystery of sex transmutation means is that we oftentimes in our society think of sex as being purely physical. It is absolutely physical, but what Napoleon Hill teaches us is that sex also has an emotional element, and that sex is the strongest of our desires. That if we can take our sexual energy, transform that into positive, creative influences, it can propel us to new heights. And so we spend quite a bit of time talking about the mystery of step 10, which is sex transmutation. Step number 11 is the subconscious mind, which Napoleon Hill tells us is the connecting leap between our human mind and the infinite intelligence, the source of all thought, the source of all creativity. Conscious mind, we spent some time talking about how we use that through the influence of autosuggestion and what we're feeding into our mind. Step number 12, which is the brain, the broadcasting and receiving station of thought. Final step number 13, the sixth sense, the door to the temple of wisdom. This is the final step through which infinite intelligence may and will communicate voluntarily without any effort from or demands by the individual. The principle is the apex of the philosophy. It can be assimilated, understood, and applied only by first mastering the other 12 principles.
All right. Well, that's an overview of all 13 principles. We hope that you use this time not only to get familiar with those principles, but to reach out to those folks that you know need to hear this message. We are streaming live on Facebook Live. We're streaming live on YouTube Live. And definitely share, like, and spread the message because we're going to get into it. We're going to start this conversation on specialized knowledge because this is a really, really important chapter. I'll tell you, when I first got exposed to this and just started reading the principles and the chapters themselves, I thought specialized knowledge, got it. I've got to go to school. I've got to get an advanced degree. I've got to get some certifications, that kind of thing. And in this chapter, Napoleon Hill makes it very, very clear the distinction between general knowledge, which is what I would get from doing those things, still a good thing to do, just that very few people will pay you for general knowledge. And so it's the specialized knowledge that leads to the accumulation of wealth. And I just want to, before I turn this over to you two ladies, I want to read on page 77. It says, the accumulation of great fortunes calls for power. And power is acquired through highly organized and intelligently directed specialized knowledge. But that knowledge does not necessarily have to be in the possession of the person who accumulates the fortune, which really put a twist on what I was thinking originally. So, Miss Ann, you'd be a great person to start off by straighten out my younger self. Help my younger self understand that it's about specialized knowledge, and I don't necessarily have to be the one who has the specialized knowledge in order to accumulate wealth. Help me with that.
Well, let's go back to the beginning. And the beginning is in school. And this is how we are trained as we hear and read about autosuggestion, right? In school, we're taught this general knowledge, know this and this and this, all of this information, unnecessary sometimes. But when you talk about specialized knowledge, Galen, Napoleon Hill tells us, and he gives many examples in the book, you can use your mastermind concept. When he tells you about the mastermind, he even says, identify the skill sets you don't have and you need, and put those people in your mastermind group. So when you think about this whole concept, your question, right? Specialized knowledge. I just put something in the chat that says niche to be rich. Niche to be rich. Napoleon Hill tells us that general knowledge, no matter how much in quantity we have, is of but little use. Now, the key to the question you're asking, he says, in the accumulation of money. So now, if you do not desire to accumulate money, you can amass a lot of information about a lot of things. But if you desire to be rich, not just, I say not just in money, but let's say you desire to be rich in your health. You want to be health conscious. Then naturally you're going to read about health. You're going to begin to specialize in what? In health. Okay, that doesn't get it for you. How about your spiritual life? You desire to have a better quality of life as relates to your spirit. Then maybe you will specialize in reading more and studying more about your spirit, right? Your mind, maybe your God, if you believe in God, or who and where you worship. The point is this, Galen, whatever it is you're desiring to do for a living, you want to, and I'll use the term niche to be rich in that area, by specializing your knowledge base first. So that will help to answer the question, but I really would encourage you, as you specialize that knowledge, what does it look like? It really is a matter of beginning to organize, if you will, the knowledge as you acquire in a particular area. You know, we had some conversation before this program started, and I'll wait till we get there. But I tell you, just like you said, I am very excited about this particular principle because it has had and is still having a profound impact on my life and my business. Thank you.
Yeah, so Ursula, I want to bring you in too because you for me anyway, you represent the second part of that passage that I read about. You don't necessarily have to be the one in possession of that specialized knowledge because you've built an entire business around leveraging and pulling out of people their specialized knowledge. and you will help them publish a book about their story. You will help them build history and legacy walls about their story. So it's not even your knowledge that you're putting on display, and that you've built a business around. So help my younger self who really thought he knew it all. Help my younger self understand how it's possible to leverage other people's knowledge, other people's specialized knowledge, in order to build your wealth, your riches, like Miss Ann said, whether that's in money or whether that's in something else.
It's funny, you have taken me all over the place, because I actually thought that I had a lot of generalized knowledge, but as it turns out, those generalized things that I was learning was specializing me to be able to work with people to do just what you said. I just had a conversation with someone just recently, talking about their life. And because I had listened or I had been a part of certain things, I could pull in my ability to understand what the person was talking about, even though I had not lived it myself. Um, and so on page 78, it talks about it pays to know how to purchase knowledge. So in my case, it pays to know how to get the story, you know, um, and 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 that is my specialized knowledge. I know a little of this and a little of that, a little of this, but I specialize in pulling out the information I need in order to tell the story. And what I say oftentimes is that when I work with someone, I'm looking for the nugget, because a lot of times people will live their lives and not even realize how extraordinary it is. And so I keep looking for the thing that they're not paying attention to, and then bringing it front and center. And one particular family that I recall is that they had just totally ignored or not been aware of the how fantastic their whole generational story was or is. And now they tell it better than I do because they now appreciate that. And that is the joy of what I do, helping you to see during your lifetime what you've done, how you impact others, and smelling your flowers and telling your own story today.
Yeah, well, I love it. We're gonna just I say we just open it up. Let's have that conversation. See if we can recreate the conversation we were having before we went live. Before we do that, I just want to acknowledge Doretha Dennis. Specialized knowledge comes from many sources. They come from your parents, your mastermind group, friends, colleagues, our doctors. It all depends on what your goal is in the moment. So I think that great example, great comment. Thank you, Doretha. And we're a bit of a mastermind, right? We meet a couple of times a week at really, really early hours of the morning, I might add. But so how, and Ms. Ann, you were talking about how, you have leveraged knowledge from mastermind groups, both our group as well as other groups that you're part of, to do that thing that Doretha just mentioned. So let's recreate that conversation about how you have leveraged specialized knowledge. You've niched, and because of your niching, you've taken your general experience and you really crafted it in a way where, I mean, you're making deals with a whole lot of commas in the number, right? So let's recreate that conversation about the power of specialized knowledge and niching.
Well, I want to share something that Napoleon Hill talked about that sets this up. A couple of things. He basically said, before you can really transmute or transfer or change your desire into money, that it requires you to use your specialized knowledge. And I'll say for myself, when I started reading the book in 1979, yes, December 31st, 9 p.m., I draw a line and said 1979. And then I began to allow the book to read me. I had to come to that point, and I'm still coming to that point, where I had to recognize I had a problem. That's the beginning of the answer to your question. I had to recognize I had a problem, and it was a financial problem. And that financial problem caused me to be in this financial situation that I was in, which was hopelessness. So once I was able to get over that and begin to be open to what Napoleon Hill said, he said, Ann McNeil, first you got to decide how much money you want. What are you going to do in return for the money? By what date do you want the money by? And what is your affirmation statement? And are you willing to recite it twice a day, once upon a rising in the morning and once before retiring at night? And I share that as a part of what we call the 6 keys to riches. And for those of you that's listening, if you'd like to get a copy of that, you can text the word ANN, ANN, at 55678. Yes, 55678. You can text the word ANN and you'll get a copy of that. But the specialized knowledge, Gayla, for me, started emerging over the years when I began to try a lot of different things, a lot of generalized, I want to do this. I want to go get I got an undergraduate degree in accounting. I went and got a master's degree in finance. And in the process of doing that, I'm still living through these 6 keys to riches. And I'm still reading this book. And Carnegie said something that was so powerful. He said, personally, these are Carnegie's words, that personally, I know absolutely nothing. Check this out. He said, I know nothing about the technical manufacturing of steel. He said, I don't know anything about the steel business. And then so Napoleon Hill said, but what do you know though? He said, I know the principle of masterminding a group of individuals who do know how to manufacture, market steel. So he surrounded himself with individuals, and Galen, that's what I started doing. Even as I began to go to a trade school to learn construction while working on a master's degree. But while in the trade school and continuing to read this book and these principles, I then began to realize, wait a minute now, if Carnegie did not know anything about steel, who am I? Why do I have to know all of this general knowledge about construction? So I did exactly what Carnegie did. I started surrounding myself with individuals who did know. So I became a member of the Latin Builders Construction Association. I became a member of the White Women Construction Association. I became a member of the White Men Construction Association. I became a member of the Black Men Construction Association. And then I began to learn. Now, here we go, specialized knowledge. This is what we talked about before the program, right? I began to learn about the construction industry, which is a large industry. But as I began to go to these different conferences, Galen, Ursula, and all of our listeners, this is what happened for me. I began to realize that even in construction, you have industries, you have sectors, you have niches. For example, there are people who are in construction and they only focus on airports. There are people in construction, talking about architects, engineers, contractors, subs, who only focus on healthcare. This is niching to be rich. This is the power of specialized knowledge. And as I share this, I want everybody to think about, what is it that you do to make money? Are you willing to understand the power and the difference between specialized knowledge and general knowledge? And are you willing, if you desire money, to niche to be rich? So, Galen, what I began to do from these principles, remember now, I'm reading this book and I'm in these principles and I'm aligned with other mastermind groups and I'm learning from the conferences and these different events that I attend. And all of a sudden I thought about even what Edison, talked about. Why should he cloud his mind? We remember the story. He said, why should I cloud my mind with all of this information? And the same thing with Ford, who had basically a 6th grade education. And Edison didn't have much more than that, and neither did my father. Okay, and many of the people that we know who did well. Because sometimes, and there's nothing wrong with education, nothing wrong with it, but sometimes the people who are teaching us to go and get all of these degrees, and there's nothing wrong with the degrees, Kayla, don't misunderstand. But if they are not making the kind of money you desire, come on, somebody, do they really earn or deserve your ear if they're not demonstrating that they are already doing what they're teaching? And so for me, Galen, I began to niche down into these industries. And then, of course, starting this entire process in 79, being homeless and broken, and all of those things, I realized the power of a $20 bill. And we were talking about Kevin Boston's book, and I actually have it here, where he talked about a $20 bill, the power of a $20 bill compounded over 30, 40 years would yield you 6 to 7 figures. So I started doing that over 30 years ago. I didn't have any money, but I said, okay, I'm learning about investing through Better Investing. And for those of you that's interested, you can go to betterinvesting.org. So, Galen, what I began to do is I began to realize, wait a minute, now Better Investing has industries. Construction has industries. And then I began to use the specialized knowledge of the two of those and then go back to the imagination chapter when Napoleon Hill says, there's creative imagination, all right? And you can take the infinite intelligence, draw from your creativity and your imagination. And that's exactly what I did, Galen. As I continued to read this book, I came upon the chapter and the principle where Charles Schwab, who was hired by Carnegie, came up with this $1 billion dinner speech. And from that speech, he convinced billionaires, if you will, to come together and form the U.S. Steel Corporation. And from that dinner speech, and the fact that I kept reading it over and over, and I said, well, guess what? Why can't I do the same thing? And so I took that concept, Galen, in my business as I continued to niche in different industries, one at a time. I took 10 years. I do aviation for 10 years, then healthcare for 10 years, and facilities, which are schools, for 10 years. And right now I am past my 40th year in the construction industry, and I'm seeing the difference. But I was able to take all of that specialized knowledge and bring it together. And in my business, I began to focus on only $1 billion Now remember that I'm a very small business, but just because I am small does not mean I have to think small. Say that again. You see, specialized knowledge is most plentiful if you think about it, and it's really the cheapest form of service that you can amass if you know exactly what you do, you know exactly who you do it for, and you know exactly how to do it to benefit your clients. And that's what I began to learn from specializing my knowledge. So I put all of those things together, Galen, and in my small construction company called MCO Construction, you can Google me, you can Google this. I then began to focus with our team, because I'm not doing this by myself in my business. We have a team of people. And we began to focus. But remember now, I only started with one person. That was me. And then we had two for years. And many, many years later, we had three, then four. But Galen, what we began to do is this. We began to look at everything, just like I talk about an annual meeting. We'll talk about that later for this organization. I do an annual meeting for my life. And then I do an annual meeting for my businesses. And every year we sit down and we look at who's working, what's not working. And when we began to look at the business of the business in the industries, we looked at which industry yield us the most profit, which industries yield us the less. We focus on the one who yield the most, the industry yields the most. But Galen, this was started emerging. This $1 billion idea from Think and Grow Rich with Charles Schwab, this $1 billion idea, I began to use it in my business. And I say, listen, why are we fooling around with these little bitty projects when we can get ahead of the money, Galen, with specialized knowledge and niche to be richer? This is a mindset. Now, remember now, I started with $20, okay? And I want to make this real to people who are sitting there saying, well, I don't have what you have, and I don't have this, and I don't have that. No. Start with an idea. Start with your imagination. Whatever it is you do, niche in that craft. Well, Galen, to wrap this story up, we began to focus only on billion-dollar programs in my industry in construction as a small business. And over years of niching down and understanding from all of these conferences and all of these masterminds that I could do the exact same thing that Charles Schwab did. I, and so can you, do the exact same thing that Carnegie did, Edison, Ford. They all chose one thing. They didn't choose a lot of things. They chose one thing, and that's what I did, Galen, and that's what I'm still doing. And so once I was able to really hone this down, document it, and understand how it worked, then I began to teach my clients how to do the same thing. And in the formation and the founder of the National Association of Black Women in Construction, I was sharing this with Ursula, we're writing a book about this process. I began to share with the ladies and the guys in our organization called NABWIC, and you can Google it, nabwic.org. I began to share with them and teach our members how to do a billion-dollar luncheon. And so we first started doing it in person in Miami at the 94th Aero Squadron. And this is what it looked like. We get a billion-dollar idea from a client's which are agencies. So let's take, for example, airports. Airports are billions of dollars. And what I do is I would invite the director of the airport to come and share these billions of dollars of opportunities with my client for lunch in person. And we did that. And what does that do, Galen? It endears my client to our firm because I'm bringing my client's client to my client. Does that make sense, Galen?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's where we are right now today, Galen. So for the last year, when everything with COVID happened, we were able to expand it all over the United States because we went on Zoom. And now that idea, we went from hosting this every month, except for July and December. Now we host it every quarter. And the next one we're planning on hosting is airports. We already got the director of the two airports, one in Miami and one in Fort Lauderdale, the actual directors joining us for lunch in June, on the 9th of June. And if any of you are listening and you're interested, you can go to Google for one thing and just Google NABWIC $1 billion luncheon. You can go to Eventbrite, but you can also text the word ANN at 55678, and we can connect and help you understand how you can do this in your own business. Because again, Galen, specialized knowledge is not limited to any of us. What normally happens is that we just need a consultant, a coach, or some help to better understand how does it work for you and what your craft is. So that's my lengthy, detailed response to a simple question, but I want to make absolutely sure that our listeners understand that you can do this. You just need to have clarity about the fact that you are interested in accumulating money. Because if you're not, this may not be for you. Not today, or it may. But anyway, back to you, Gideon. Thank you.
Yeah. You know, one of the things that I always chuckle at when I read through this book, because you kind of hit on on this area. Napoleon Hill says there's a secret in this book, and you may find it. People may find it a variety of places. Some people may find it on the first page. Some people may find it on the last page. You may find it on your third or fourth reading. And I thought that was always strange when I read that, until literally the fourth time I read this book. I realized that the secret is the first word on the daggum cover of the book. And you highlighted this, and Dolores Presley picked up on this. It's the word think. It's how you think. And Dolores Presley, another great leader, great speaker, coach, consultant, great story. she picked up on the fact that you said that just because you were small, that didn't mean that you had to think small. And it was when you changed your thinking that all of this opportunity started coming to you, as if it was there all along. Just the veil over your eyes was lifted. And so I want to bring in Ursula, because before the broadcast, you were talking about how, you like many of us, you had a job and you were doing good, and then all of a sudden you changed your thinking and you got into this entrepreneurial space and you never looked back. That was the last time you ever worked for someone else, because you changed your thinking. So if you could just share a little bit of what that was about.
Your questions are amazing to me. They bring in a lifetime by the time you finish asking. Yes, I went through several transformations, from having a department that was huge in a Fortune 500 company and being told that I had that entrepreneurial spirit and I was operating like that. So, with that mindset, I took the money that I had saved by investing. I mean, I maxed out everything and could retire at age 42, right? And do the things that I wanted to do for me. And that is to be an entrepreneur. And that's what I've been ever since. So it was the thought of wanting to do what I had seen my grandmother do. Well, I didn't actually see her do it. There was a picture of a store that was outside of the house that I grew up from before my time that had a 5-cent Coke sign on it, which revealed to me that my grandmother used to have a store. So the entrepreneurial spirit was there. She had me thinking that way, even though we didn't talk about it like that all the time. I knew she had done it. But I wanted to also talk about something that I connected to in the beginning when I said that I had to find the focus. Well, there was a change some years ago when my husband passed away. And I said, okay, oh Lord, what am I going to do now? One way of thinking was, we were rocking and rolling, doing this together, right? We were going to change the world together. Well, now it's just me. So what I ended up doing was getting a piece of paper and did a Ben Franklin close on myself, meaning that I put on one side of that page everything that I had ever learned, how I had learned it, when, and, on the right-hand side, I put, am I still using it? How am I using it? Do I even like it, even if I'm using it? Am I making money off of it? How does this fit? And in the middle was my name. And that process led me to realize that when I was a 5-year-old child, I crawled under my grandmother's bed and I pulled out a Tampa cigar box full of letters and old photographs and coins and a lock of her sister's hair. And those things fascinated me. And when I looked at the things that I liked doing and that I was still doing and that I was making money on and enjoying that part, it was that little 5-year-old girl. I still like old documents. Here's an old book, and that I'm going to be doing a video on because it's a legacy of Mary McLeod Bethune. I found in some place a book with the signature of the person that used to work with her. And so that is who I am. And now I can focus all these skills from being a computer analyst, a computer trainer, a developer, to gathering old photographs and listening to stories that my grandmother told. I mean, sitting at her feet and just listening and recording her voice back then. Pull all that stuff together. And it's about your story, pulling it together so that it can be shared with others. And people can benefit from all that wisdom that you have. And then finally, if you think about if in fact we could have 500 different CEOs at our table and telling us what to do, how cool would that be? what kind of specialized knowledge could we get? Then I go, oh, that's what we're doing. 500 success stories and somebody's lifetime in gathering those success stories just for us to use the specialized knowledge that was exhibited and revealed to us.
I mean, there's power there. There is obvious power there, and I love your question about what if we could have 500 CEOs giving us advice on how to do this thing that we're trying to do. And that reminds me, and I want to bring in Ms. Ann, because one of the things that you've created is something very similar to that, where you bring in people who are CEOs of their lives. You ask them to provide insight into your life plan, and you call that an annual meeting. Share a little bit about this annual meeting for your life, for anyone who has not attended or anyone who is wondering whether or not they should attend. What is this thing, and how does it work?
Well, Galen, I want to go back to the book that Ursula has in her hand. And for those of you that have the book, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, and especially the version that we use, which is the one that Ursula had, which is restored and revised, it in the very back of the book, and this is the version we're using, right? I want to go back to the fact that in this chapter on specialized knowledge, the author says that when you take your specialized knowledge and you mix it with imagination, these really are the two ingredients, along with the desire, along with the faith. These are the ingredients that really help you to understand how to achieve the desire. All right? But who's holding you accountable? You see, Napoleon Hill in this version, and for those of you that have the version, if you go to the section where he does the questions, survey questions, and I like to do that. It's almost like, Galen, if you think about where we go to worship, there's a book, and in that book there are principles. This process was all derived from that principle. So a portion of this book, Napoleon Hill asks us survey questions. He says very simply, and you can read it for those of you that have the book. He says, if you really want to achieve your goals with specialized knowledge, on an annual basis, you should do an assessment of yourself. So being a student of this philosophy, and I would say an expert in this process, Galen, I did exactly what Napoleon Hill said to do. I took the questions, and every year I would answer the questions. Many of the answers started out as no, I'm not, no, the answer was no. Did I have a plan? No. Did I specialize in a niche? No. Was I, doing all of these things in my business? The answer was no. Eventually, Galen, those questions in the back of the book became a survey for me, which I've published in a book called How to Start and Run a Successful Mastermind Group. There are 10 areas that we focus on. And eventually, Galen, 5 years into this process, came up with another specialized knowledge plus imagination idea, which was to have an annual meeting for your life. We started with 10 of us. And on an annual basis, we would meet at the end of the year, usually right after the end of the year. We, start January, first Saturday. And 10 of us, we just met in a hotel. Excuse me. We started meeting in a house. It was my house. And then we got to about 90 people in my home. We realized we had too many people and we needed to move to a hotel. But simply, Galen, what we would do is we would come together and bring our life in writing. And we would write goals for the spiritual, the family, the health, the educational area, the personal development, the business, which are your career, if you're not in business, your recreation, your creativity, your civic, those areas, 10 areas of your life. And we would set the goals for 6 months, 1 year, 5 years, 10 years. And right now I'm in my 40th year of that 40-year plan I wrote over 40 years ago. And very simply, Galen, what that allowed us to do was to write the vision early in life. Write the vision early in life. And again, all I did was take the principle, specialized knowledge, the section of the book that he has, which is survey questions, and all of you can find them. Just go to the organized planning section of the book. And then, Galen, what I began to do is to just assess myself and the others of us. And that's how the International Mastermind Association was born. We're hosting the same event, Galen, and we can bring up the JPEG again. January 7th through the 8th. We start on the 7th with the reception. I call it a founder's reception, which is open mic, where we allow people to come and just share your aha from the year that you've got from the process. But then on that Saturday, Galen, as you already know, you have to bring your life in writing. And if you don't have it ready, you can't get in. You have to wait on the outside. You take the survey, which I call, McNeil Factor Survey, and you have to complete the survey outside the door, yes, in the lobby, until you finish that survey, and then you come in. Why is that important? Because what we're learning is that if you don't make a commitment and you don't write it down, it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. So join us on January 7th, 2022 at the Embassy Suites in Boca Raton, 7th and 8th. And I promise you, life-changing. And Galen, I want to thank you for coming, and all those individuals who have come in the past, but definitely join us in 2022.
Yeah, I mean, it's a powerful. I mean, I created mine. I had to come with it, because you only have to get left in the lobby one time and you learn that lesson. So, fantastic. And one of the things that I really want to bring us back around to is, you said that you get ahas from this process, and you do get ahas about your life. It's not real until you write it down. It's something about a plan that has to go through the test of daylight, right? Every plan makes sense in my head, but can it stand the test of daylight? And that's exactly what this process is. So and then we got a lot of great comments there in the chat. Laverne Dorsey is coming in. Thank you for being a part of this conversation. Oren Checkmate Hudson is chiming in, just saying, yeah, you got to write the vision. I'll definitely mentioned Doretha Dennis, Dolores Presley, just a lot of really, really great leaders in their own right, part of this conversation. So fantastic. So, Ms. Ursula, what are some final thoughts that you have about this conversation, and how can people get a hold of you if they want to access your specialized knowledge to help them put their legacy into the world?
Thanks, Galen. This entire program has been an aha for me, because it focuses on what I love doing, and that is taking each person's specialized knowledge and collapsing that into something that can be shared with the world, which means that it gives each of us an opportunity to collapse years into days into hours, because someone took the time to share what they know with us. And that's what happens here every Saturday. We're pouring our hearts out to you, what we know. And that means that that's the seed that may turn into a flower or a tree that will benefit the world. So how do you reach me? Well, Sulatoo.com, SULATOO.com. And specifically, take a look at some of the books that have been published by my company, Tutt Publishing, by clicking on the link that says Tutt Publishing, and see the various things that people have shared about their lives. And there's more coming. There are a couple of books in the works, like right there. Can't wait. Thank you.
All right. Well, great. Well, definitely reach out to her, but I'm going to warn you: do not connect with Ursula if you are not serious about making this thing a reality, because she will absolutely make sure that all these things you talk about, she will make sure it happens. So if you're just talking, you might not want to reach out to her, but if you're serious about making it happen, she's the person to contact. She's definitely the person to contact. And Miss Ann, what are some final thoughts from you about this conversation, about this chapter, and how can people get a hold of you if they want to be a part of some of these $1 billion luncheon conversations that you're having?
Thank you, Galen. What I'd like to do, I actually put in the chat page 264 of the version of the book that we have for those individuals who, and this is one of the reasons why we all use the same version of the book, is this version. And people say to me, why do you always promote that version? And I would like for you to take one guess. In this version, the reason I promote it is because I'm in that version, Galen. So yes, I'm in this version of the book. But as we talk about and wrap up a specialized knowledge, one of the things that Napoleon Hill shared with us about specialized knowledge, and if you stop and think about this, I think all of you would agree that this is true. At the beginning of every successful business, look around you, wherever you are. It all started with an idea that someone had, where they used their imagination, that eventually turned into specialized knowledge from the desire to create something. Oftentimes, it did not start about money. It was just an idea someone had. We talked about the different examples he gave in the book. You know, the guy who lost his job and at a later point in life went on to law school, the accountant that started a mobile business. They're all ideas. So as I continue to work this process, Galen, I wrote this book. It's called A Daily Date with Myself. And in this book, it's a journal. And it's an idea journal from this particular specialized knowledge. Because what I found I would do, Galen, is that as I would write and journal, I would take a sheet of paper and I would write the specialized industries in construction that I wanted to go after, what clients and what industry. And I would take a sheet of paper and I would write from 1 to 10 every day, year after year after year. And I would ask my mind to give me ideas, 1 to 10. And then these ideas, Galen, turned into what we've talked about the $1 billion clients. And I took that idea, shared it with a group of women called the National Association for Black Women in Construction. And I'm helping our organization and our members and my coaching clients and my consulting clients to get ahead of the money. We always hear people talk about running behind the money. Oh, going after the money. No. I did that for years. It doesn't work, trust me. Why? Because when you realize an opportunity is coming, it's too late. You have to start here with an idea. You have to start when they're having the idea that they want to build the road, if you're in construction. You have to start when they're having the idea that they want to build a building in your area. Not once the building is designed and going out for bid, it's too late. That is the $1 billion concept. And so I'm creating a $1 billion mastermind. Yes, you heard it right here, first time. Helping people to specialize with their imagination to get ahead of the pursuit of the money. And so again, if you'd like to know more information about me, you can text the word Ann, A-N-N, at 55678. We'll send you those 6 keys. We can connect with you. But if you just remember the title of this book, Think and grow rich. You must start with the clarity of your desire. Don't start with how, all of the other details of how am I going to do it? Oh, but I don't have the right mindset. Oh, I don't know anybody. No, you have the principles like Ursula said and Galen has talked about. And thank you, Ms. Presley. The word think. And for the mere fact that you're here says that you are thinking. Yes, and we want to thank you for doing that. And thank you, all of you that have been participating with us in the chat, because you matter. Yes, you matter to us, and we're hosting this for you. And so, Galen, again, Ann McNeil, the master builder, of course, you can, again, text the word and A-N-N at 55678. And if you want to know more, you can always Google me. Thank you.
Yeah, well, this is the culmination. This book captures the culmination of how the game of life is played. These are the rules of the game. You can play this game without knowing the rules, and you can have success. We call that luck. We call that chance. Or you can learn the rules. So you've got it. So you can have a shot at having success on purpose. That's what this is about. I am just really, really excited. I've made it I've committed that once a year I would host my own master class and take people through this this process. Because it's kind of my way to understand the process at a deeper level by teaching others. And I've had so much fun and so much success with that I'm getting requests to create more masterclass programs. So getting ready to launch, I'm actually finishing one right now. We're going to finish this week and getting ready to launch another one as well. But these are the rules of the game. Life is a game. Life is not real. It seems real, it smells real, it feels real, it tastes real, but it's actually a game. And once you decide that it's a game and you decide that you want to win at playing your game in life, you've got to know the rules in order to be successful on purpose. And I have not found another book or place that just lays the rules out for you as clearly as this one does. My name is Galen Bingham. I'm the leadership strategist. I help leaders bake permanent success into their work and life. You can follow me in so many different ways, but I'll tell you the most fun way to follow me, if you're interested, is by subscribing to my podcast. I got a brand new podcast called Whiskey, Jazz, and Leadership. It's available on all podcast platforms. We talk to leaders. We talk to people that have done this thing for real for a long period of time. And I invite them over to my place. We talk about great whiskey. We talk about jazz, but we get the real conversation about what it takes to be successful in leadership. We've already had incredible conversations with people that who have been guests on this show. And I've got incredible conversations coming up as well. So definitely subscribe. I double dog dare you to check out the podcast just once on any podcast platform. The one thing I want to leave you with, actually two things I want to leave you with. Number one, I want to give a shout out to our other co-host who's not here. And I would be upset with Dr. Peter James for not being here, except that he's on the beach in Cabo, so it's kind of hard to be mad at someone who's vacationing on the beach in Cabo. So be safe, come back. We definitely are not the same without you. So that's the first thing I want to do. And the second thing I want to do is I want to leave you. I always like to leave you with a quote, and these quotes are actually coming from my companion book that I wrote a couple years ago. And these are the words from John Buchan, who was he was an author, he was a speaker. I think he was Prime Minister of Canada at one point. But he says that the task of leadership is not to put greatness into humanity, but to elicit it, for the greatness is already there. And that's what we've been talking about today. How do you elicit the greatness? How do you elicit the specialized knowledge from the people that are around you, from the people that you're working with? How can you elicit that greatness so that you can use that a culmination of knowledge, of specialized knowledge, to help you grow rich, whether that's growing rich in money, whether that's growing rich in health, whether that's growing rich in spirituality? How can you harness that specialized knowledge and put it to work to help you achieve your goals? That's the purpose of this Think and Grow Rich. I want to call it a movement. And hopefully it will have been in place and generating results since 1937. So hopefully you can get on board. We'd love to have you every week. Every Saturday morning at 8 a.m., we have this conversation. Be sure to follow us, like us, and share us on Facebook Live and or on YouTube Live. Until next week, this is Galen Bingham, the leadership strategist, wishing you to think and grow rich. Take care.